if you don't mind me asking, I'm curious, since you've been an inventor for these last few years, how have you developed your skills in terms of the engineering process and what's made you at where you are right now?
Right. No, that's a great question. And I think I would say it's been characterized just by pulling from a ton of different sources, not going down a single path, but instead focusing a lot more on breadth. And so with that, learning how to CAD by watching a YouTube video, learning Arduino by following the tutorials there, learning how to interview stakeholders through going through a playbook and actually applying it. And so just through going like finding as many resources as I could and taking what I could from them and just trying to use that to just build a toolbox that helps me one understand problems, but then the other side of that is two actually building a solution. I would say, yeah, just finding as much as I could. That's been the biggest thing. And then when it comes time to actually apply them, working one failing a lot because you learn a lot more in failure than just everything succeeding. And so I've experienced a ton of failed prototypes, things just working awfully, but it's not just straight failure, it's failing with learning. And so like now every iteration I have after that, I'm learning, or I can take what I learned previously and apply it. And so just the iterative process, right? It gets better and better and better. You spiral closer and closer to that pinpointed solution where it works and it achieves the goals that you set out to accomplish. So yeah, I would say just trying to find a bunch of sources and then a lot of like practical applied learning. And then once I have those skills, the actual skills themselves, they can be applied in a variety of contexts. So taking those and actually applying them to a problem that I want to focus on solving.
That's great. Awesome. Awesome. Well, that was a great response. And you kind of went into a question I was curious to ask you about. When it comes to you facing challenges, do you ever find yourself getting frustrated and you just need to find out where to find your patience? I know for me, sometimes that can be a struggle with, even writing simple code and following Arduino lessons online. So do you ever face that?
Yes, no, absolutely. I would say there have been projects where I've faced more frustration than joy, but there's a quote that talks about you only fail if you quit. And so in those moments where things aren't working correctly, it's incredibly frustrating because like say like I have a breadboard circuit. It doesn't work. I fry the microchip. I put a new one in and I rewire everything and I think this is the one and then it doesn't work again. Those are the times when I get most frustrated. I realize that I have such tunnel vision that I couldn't see the issue even if I tried. So in those moments, one, you always have to go back to your why. So I only try to create solutions for problems that affect a lot of people or that I'm passionate about. And usually those go hand in hand. And so in those moments where I want to quit, when I think about why I'm doing it and the potential of who I could help, that always fuels me. And even in like the toughest situations, just finding a way because it's bigger than me. But on top of that, whenever, yeah, like in those moments where I'm super frustrated, it's kind of like a red flag that goes off in my mind, like, okay, Jonathan, let's back up from the problem. Let's look at everything we've learned up to this point, and then from there, let's try and approach it from a different angle. And usually that'll yield an insight that helps me, yeah, it helps me understand the problem in a new way, as well as what I'm doing incorrectly. And then in that moment, I'll have like an aha moment. And then that's followed by like, what was I thinking? How did I make that mistake? But there's definitely joy when I realize, oh, but if I do this now, it'll work. And so just making sure that I am keeping an open mind and not letting myself just travel through this rabbit hole, but being self-aware enough to step away from the problem, approach it again, and realizing that I started this problem for a reason. So just because like it wasn't guaranteed that it would be an easy fix. So I started it for a reason, remembering that reason and letting that reason fuel me.
Oh, that's perfect. Absolutely. I completely agree. Trying to stay away from that tunnel vision, like you said, is so important and can be really easy to fall into, but trying to stem and remember where the problem is that you're trying to help solve. And then the whole reason why you're whole doing this is really what draws you back. So that's very great.
And
Um,
You
Yeah.
put that perfectly.
So when it comes to you finding your inspiration and your target audience, do you tend to find it from your own experiences or people around you? Could you talk a little more to that?
Like one definitely in my own experiences, just like so this idea of friction, like how do I live life and interacting with a device, like opening up a door, what frictions are there that I go through in life where if that was better designed or if I made something for it, it would be a little bit easier. It would make the human experience a little bit easier. And then from there, not looking at myself only, but also looking around and observing my surroundings, seeing how other people have friction in their lives, and not only observing it, but just asking them questions like, hey, like, I have this problem. Do you also have this problem? And if they do, then it usually points to, okay, it's not just me then. There's something here. And so just trying to validate problems through like one, seeing what I experience, but then also looking at what other people experience, that's something that helps me a ton, as well as with the entire idea of inclusive design, which I'm incredibly passionate about, making sure that everybody has equal resources to do whatever they set out to do in this world, whether that is digital or physical. One of the paradigms of it is design for one, extend to many. And so whenever we design for a single person, whether that's yourself, whether that's somebody else who's undergoing a problem, odds are if it's a real problem, more people are experiencing it, which goes in with that validation. But the other side of it is through making a solution, that solution can usually be expanded through adding new features or making it customizable to where now it can work for a ton of people. And so there's no problem too small because usually like usually other people are experiencing it, and even if they're not experiencing it explicitly, they're experiencing an offshoot or a consequence of it. And if you can kill it at the root, then I would say yeah, just that's the goal. Because yeah, I don't know what to say other than that. Like that is the goal of all the roots of problems. If we can eliminate those and just
Yeah.
reduce friction and make the human experience better and improve quality of life for everybody, I think that is the mission.
Yes, that is wonderful. That's very well put. Um, yeah, I agree absolutely. Um, I would say when it comes to the inventing process, do you ever find yourself getting flustered and then you need a way to stay organized? Like I know that when it looks to other, students, I know in my basement, especially when I'm working on my different prototypes, it might look like a huge mess. I don't know where anything is, but somehow there's some organization to my madness. So when you're doing your inventing process, do you have any like advice when it comes to staying organized?
Yes. So that is something that's been on my mind quite a bit recently. So yeah, the entirety of like documentation, it's a friction in my life, but it's super important. It's super important because, like I said, whenever you fail, there's lessons that you learn, but we have to make sure that we're documenting those lessons because our mind, it's like the dullest pencil is better than the sharpest mind because like another part of the inventor's mind is that we're constantly thinking of new ideas. And because of that, things that we need from a previous iteration that weren't written down, it just leaves our mind. And so definitely like documentation is incredibly important. And in terms of yeah, what I do, one of the things I do is I keep an idea journal on me. It's in my backpack right now. I won't get it out, but just anything like just noticing friction, just like one, either writing down the problem or writing down an initial solution that I can think of, just trying to do that, as well as I'll find myself thinking so fast that I'm thinking faster than I write. And so I've learned that taking voice memos works very well. Just recording a voice memo and just word dumping, just everything that I'm thinking in the moment, and then coming back to it later and taking the key points and writing those down, as well as using like cloud-based storage systems like Google Drive or something, because then you can access it from anywhere. And if like your native device is gone, it's okay because you still have everything. So those have been super helpful for me in terms of documentation. In terms of organization, I would say I'm very much in the same way. Just things look very disheveled, just all over the place. But I think that that's also part of the beauty of the inventing process because it's not the straight line, but a big part of inventing is that we're able to take these seemingly disjoint ideas and bring them together and create something generative that's even better than the two of them apart. And so that I think an environment where a ton of things are disorganized, it may be inefficient, but I personally think that it's way more conducive to inventing, coming up with new ideas, especially when you hit a roadblock. Just looking at object A, object B, there's unrelated, but if I put them together, if I tweak one using the other, what could come from that? I think that there are some great things that can come out of that. So I would encourage the disorganization. I don't know if that's just like an unpopular opinion, but personally, I encourage it. I encourage it.
Yeah. It's almost like the artwork for the inventor's mind, to see all of
Exactly.
it and be like, look at all this potential.
Yes. Yes. That's exactly what it is.
Great, great. And I love the idea of keeping an idea journal on you at all times. That's awesome because you might get those like random thoughts, or you see something out in your own experiences and be like, wow, we really need a solution to that. And it's really helpful to have something on hand to be like, let's remember that for next time. So
Exactly.
that's perfect. Yeah. And definitely save everything to like a Google Drive or something. Because when I first started out, I put everything on this like really small, like hard drive or flash drive. And now it's like all broken and sad. And I need to somehow figure out how to take all of my logbook, like notes and documentation off of that before it just, you know, vanishes somewhere. So yeah, very important for documentation. Absolutely. So you seem to be very well spoken and you have a lot of passion when it comes to your words, especially backing up for your different inventions that you've been putting so much time and effort into. So would you say that this whole process of where you are right now and being an inventor has helped you to gain some confidence in public speaking?
Absolutely. Yes. Inventing is incredible, but you have to be able to communicate your idea because you can solve a problem, but if people don't know about it, it might as well not exist. And so with inventing, like one, it's really, really hard to explain an invention to somebody who has no idea what you're talking about. Like it doesn't exist. And so learning how to use the right words to convey the device that I'm trying to make, like if I'm at Home Depot or Ace, has been it's been a journey. At first, like they looked at me like I was crazy, and then now I think they know who I am now. So they're like, okay, I think
Like,
I
cool.
may not get it, but I can get you what you need. And so like that's one way that communication has definitely it's strengthened through inventing and working with Invention Convention, as well as once you have an idea, you have to like a lot of problems are things that unless people are going through it daily and it's causing a ton of friction, if it's being affected, like if it's affecting somebody else, a lot of people won't realize it. And so as the inventor, when you're at a fair or if you're talking to an investor, it's incredibly important to make that problem visible in a way that they'll understand it. And so you have to understand your audience, where they come from, what their expertise is in, and then what will appeal to them in terms of talking about the problem, as well as how your invention is able to solve said problem. And you have to keep all those things in mind as well. And so learning context and background is incredibly important. And it makes you craft your pitch just ever so slightly so that it has the optimal effect. And so I would say, yeah, just inventing those two things, like one, asking for parts, just trying to explain what it is I'm wanting, like what I want to do without having anything else to describe it, as well as actually like presenting an idea, like explaining the problem to somebody who may not understand it or understand the significance or how widespread it is super, super important. And so, yeah, just like with communication, engineering, I mean, no, well, engineering and invention, it's definitely helped a ton.
Definitely, 100%. I totally see where you're coming from, especially with, getting kind of that weird glance, like, what are you talking about when it comes to finding materials? There was one time I was trying to program something and I asked for some advice for someone. And I was like, hey, do you know how I'm gonna like improve this code so it's a little more condensed or something? And then they'd be like, well, what's it for? I'd be like, well, you're gonna want to sit down for this, okay? you know? But definitely knowing your audience is so beneficial because it, like you said, helps to craft your prototypes. And then from that, you'll make it more appealing for more people to see it as a solution. So definitely making sure you know your target audience and then crafting your pitch so that it's adjusted so that everyone that's coming in to listen to you is able to comprehend, the audience and the problem that you're kind of speaking to. So I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. I think that's it for questions for me, but it was great talking to everyone. I feel like I learned so much. This was an amazing experience.
No, so did I. So did I.
Yeah. it's so cool to figure out like how much we have so much alike, you know? So that's what's great about the inventing process. You get to learn about all these
Yes.
different inventors and how we're all in such a small world.
Right. And that's what I love about ICW is that brings them all in one place because I don't know of anything else doing stuff like this. Like, yeah, there's science fair, but science fair is like research and like, yeah, that's cool, but it's not applied. Like, yeah, like it's cool, but like
No
this is
paperwork.
this is what is impacting the world immediately. And so the fact that we're getting everybody in one place, like, yeah, one, it's deeply inspiring, but two, it's necessary because we need a community of inventors who are supporting each other because it's tough. It's tough and it's not a lot of people doing it, but people that are, we need to support each other.
Absolutely. You really do need to have the stamina to keep going because the inventing process, it's not a one thing and you're done. No, you got to keep refining, 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 and then, outsourcing as much as you can to figure out how your invention can impact as many lives in a positive way as possible.
Yes. I can't even add on to that because you put it perfectly. I can't add on.
Cool.